Hello and welcome to another episode of Chaos in London. This is Mage Edition. Tonight we find ourselves with our intrepid uh, blacksmith Kai, who has, in an effort to, in a sense of understanding, has removed his eye parallel to the sacrifice made by Odin, and now finds himself tied up to a tree in a land he does not quite. You might recognize it by this point. Um, when we had left off, he had been tied up to said tree, and a large serpentine figure was coming up to speak with him. So, um, continuing on the conversation from your woodworking, um, the serpent will nod as best the serpent can and say, I can see that. And what is it that you wish to learn?
I suppose it's hard to necessarily quantify, but a better understanding, better kind of search for words a little bit. He says, I see these different components of the universe, these threads of veered fate, and need or seek a way to better observe and comprehend them.
I see. And you think you can find that here?
What would be a more appropriate place for understanding the fates?
Fair point. In exchange for this tutelage, what would you have to offer?
He, still being bound to a tree, kind of just nods his head a little bit and says, well, part of the price has already been given. He kind of looks the serpent in the eye as best he can. And he says, I believe the traditional term is half the light of the world. But I would additionally recognize that some sort of tutelage or favor, some sort of task be completed.
Roll ponder for a second. I see. And perhaps a better question, who do you want to learn from?
He kind of looks and he says, well, that is challenging question as well. There are so many that know the ways of fate, the Norns themselves. Odin, who once learned the ways, among so many others. I suppose at the heart of it, I would have to defer to who is most interested in sharing such things. Whose goals would align with mine. Another potential might be who can most recognize the goal that I have.
And what would your goals be?
Well, the first step is understanding. The second step, however, would be the restoration of honor and wisdom to the land. Recognizing that doing so to the whole land is infeasible, but the places that I touch, I can at least make an attempt to bring those things back. These demon beings that I hear of are creatures from outside the ways, and they are destroying humanity.
Hmm. Well, I can tell you one thing. You mentioned Odin as a potential tutor. Unfortunately, he finds himself a little indisposed at the moment. But if you were to bring him back in some way, I'm sure he'd be very grateful for it.
Yes, I suppose that would help.
From what I can sort out, or the last bit of his essence remains in his spear, which is on Midgard, somewhere in the city of London. Are you familiar with it?
I'm familiar with the city. I'm concerned that his spear is there because that seems like a horrible thing to have in the hands of humanity.
It was stolen from him by someone he considered his scion. then used to destroy him and absorb his essence. And now it finds itself in the hands of a young medical student who helped rid the world of the traitorous man. That would more than likely be a good start to bringing him back, as it were.
I suppose it would. In the meantime, I suppose any other wisdom that might be available to aid me in this endeavor would certainly be welcome.
Mm.
It is, of course, in the form of a separate arrangement.
Of course. You have given your eye for this. I would be remiss if I didn't offer you something in exchange. Hmm. He will, he'll open his mouth and kind of flick his tongue out. Um, Whenever he reaches out and flicks his tongue, it'll kind of brush up against your cheek, um, and you'll feel something kind of crawling along your shoulder, on the side of your face that your eye is missing.
Could have been worse, could be acid.
Do it.
I said it could have been worse, could be acid.
Yeah, it could have been acid.
So, and Kai's not going to move. Whatever is occurring here, he knows better than to try to.
I leave you with a tiny essence of myself. It will need assistance staying in Midgard, but should you have questions or need a way to contact me, uh, it can answer and get messages across.
That would be most excellent and helpful. Are there any other fragments of your essence that I should be aware of?
No, I try not to let them out as much as I can, but I have a good feeling about you.
I felt it prudent to ask. Yeah, gather I'm probably not the only one reaching out if Odin is missing and such conflicts have taken place.
I'm sure there are many who are trying to trying to bring him back or claim his power for their own, but if you should find any of them who are doing so in a distasteful way, or doing it for less than benevolent means, do what you wish with them, and I will ensure they're properly punished afterwards.
Yes, unfortunately, this is a faith that does tend to attract some of the wrong crowd too.
Yes, I've been somewhat paying attention to some of the going-ons on Midgard. not a fan on how some have co-opted the faith and made their own interpretations, the new canon for it, or attempted to at least.
This is their favorite goal. Try and create a faith of elitism. Seem to forget the part where the concern was never your blood, it was whether you were worthy through your merit and action.
Indeed. Quite frankly, while I cannot speak for all of us, I can certainly speak for myself. Quite frankly, I don't much care what your family is. I don't much care what your ancestors have done. I care more about what you have done. Using a general you, of course.
Yes, it's unfortunately something that is forgotten. Everyone's more worried about where they came from and what tribe they can claim and how far back, and taking credit for someone else's actions.
Feel free to rid the world of those as well while you're at it. Like I said, I'll ensure they're properly punished.
Well, if it becomes necessary, but I think it can be beneficial to attempt to correct their path first.
Of course.
There are some who are lost through ignorance, others because of their own choices and actions.
Do what you wish.
He nods and says, "That has generally been my path, but I ensure that I pay the price for doing so myself. It's not correct to attempt to pass the price on to someone else."
It's generally a good way to go about things. Now then, is there anything else you needed from this visit?
Well, as you are sending a element of yourself back with me, and you have expressed some of your views on Midgard, is there anything specific you need accomplished beyond those tasks we have already discussed?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Is there anything specific you need accomplished beyond those tasks we've discussed? Any particular action that would be appropriate and befitting to you?
None that come to mind immediately, but should I think of them, I will pass them along.
Well, you do have a effective conduit to do so. So they will forward to hearing from you should the need arise, and make every effort to address this situation. Certainly, having Odin's essence bound and missing is not good for any of us. And I'm sure that makes it convenient for usurpers to interfere as well.
Indeed.
He nods his head and thanks the serpent for his aid. And then he will close his one good eye.
Okay. You will, whenever you close your eye, you'll feel the wind ripping at you very briefly um, before it stops. You no longer feel the bindings holding you to the tree, nor the tree itself. What do you do?
Do I feel a rope around my neck again?
Yes,
Are my feet touching the ground?
they are.
Okay, good. That was the intention, but it doesn't always work.
Right.
Well, he will begin removing the rope then. And assuming his followers are there yet, he will raise his hands and inform them that the certainly tonight will be a saga and a tale that will never be forgotten.
Your followers watch you and wait for further clarification and/or instruction.
He kind of holds up his hands as he removes the rope. And he says, much like in the original tale, when Odin first sacrificed his eye, and later when he hung staring into the depths, they too have returned with a better understanding. And with such successful journeys, it is appropriate to celebrate. Let us feast, praise the gods. And then he'll turn and he'll say, and would someone please find a cask of ale? Or even better, mead if you can.
One of your followers will start to go and try and find some meat. So we'll start preparing food. But I will come up to you kind of worried and say, do you need something for your eye? Or what used to be your eye?
Kai will he's going to look around, just find a piece of cloth temporarily to bind over it. And once it's wrapped up, he will, he kind of takes, he says, prices are paid for a good story, for wisdom, for knowledge. Perhaps next time it will be my own saga that we tell. Not of me, but of a work of mine, just as Snorri wrote the Eddas about the heroes who came before. Perhaps at this time I too share the tales of those. before. He'll, as he's tying the cloth, he'll draw some runes on the cloth and on his face with his blood and say, "Fear not, however. Wounds of the flesh will not deter me. There's far too much fight left in this one." And he is going to use life magic. So he wants to, I want to heal the eye, but not like restore it, just like heal it so I'm not bleeding out.
Okay. You have life 2, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you'd be able to at least like close the wound and whatnot.
Right. Yeah, I'm not looking for like a regeneration, just a, let's make this not a injury or a current injury, I guess would be the best way to look at it.
Gotcha. Yeah, go ahead and roll for it.
5, or would it be? Should be right. Life 2, or is it vulgar?
Do you have a sanctum?
They do.
Then are you within your sanctum?
That would. So I declared that he was in a tree near, the rock structure, the cairn of Wayland's Forge, which is his sanctum. So I don't know if that like, does that include the immediate surrounding wilderness? Is it just the stones themselves?
It would just be the stones themselves because sanctums tend to be fairly small.
Sure. Then I am just outside of it.
Okay.
I guess I could walk into it before doing this.
Yeah, you could definitely do that.
I mean, we're right here. I might as well walk over to the stones.
Yeah. So if you do, it'll be coincidental. But if you don't, then it'll be vulgar.
Yeah. So he would walk in just to the. He's got the one, what I'll call his forge stone that he's been kind of using as an anvil. He'll walk to that and he'll trace some of the same runes on to the stone. And as he does, he says, "To the gods, our flesh is no more than any metal to be wrought at their whim. But to those of us who know the old ways, our flesh is the strongest metal and the truest weapon. And we care for it, hone it, that someday it might bring us glory and honor."
Okay.
Would using his blood constitute a personal focus?
I'd say so, yeah.
Seems pretty personal, but I figured I'd check. There are 3 successes.
Okay. That'll be enough. You'll feel the wound that you've caused in your eye to slowly start to heal up. The ocular cavity is still there, and it's clear that it's empty. However, it seems to have healed up and is no longer bleeding.
Right. And that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
Alright. And he will probably join the feast. I gotta imagine hanging yourself and gouging your eye out works up an appetite.
I imagine so, yeah.
So, first, before he actually joins the feast itself, he's going to try and locate the thing that he was sent back with.
Okay. There's a tiny serpent just under kind of your shirt collar.
Gotcha. Alright. Well, he will join his troop for the feast. And he will. He's also going to plan a larger feast and send word. So he lets his followers know that they should. After this, the troops should prepare for a larger feast. With outside guests to share the ways with, just so that they can begin preparing.
Yeah.
Is
there anything else you want to accomplish in scene?
I don't think so at this. Let me. Or I say that. I don't think so. I think at this point he's going to focus on just with his troop. Building up that camaraderie and focusing on their success, and to help to reinforce. Since these were people who started as just like historical reenactors, he just wants to reinforce that's part of what they do. Keep the old ways, but also share them through reenactment, that sort of thing.
Yeah. We can probably call it there for tonight.
All right.
So thank you for playing. Thank you, future watchers, for watching. This has been another episode of Chaos of London.